What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jimmy James 59, and today I have a build order video that is actually really special for me, and I didn't mean for it to be maybe as timely as it might seem in some ways, but I'll get to that in a moment. Just from the jump, just want to say thank you everybody for supporting the channel. We recently just passed 100 subscribers, and we are well on that way to our goal, bringing this game to more and more eyes, some newer players, keeping the old guard, talking about it, fired up, etc. And so if you like what we're doing on the channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a lot with the algorithm, and it's going to help us reach more and more people. And if you like this video and if you like this kind of content, hit the like and leave any kind of comments down there in the comment section below. I'd like to try and expand the content a little more in a way that is not as repetitive as just tier list, and so I'm trying to find my balance here. And I really like these build orders because it's a way for me to showcase and give back some things that I've learned, and in particular this week, this is definitely one of the most important build orders in that regard. This is a build order that was made known by Hera, AOE2 legend. I would say a few years ago, and you can find this video on his channel, and he calls it in the title video his best men-at-arms build, and it's done with the Mayans, and it is a very strong, very powerful build. And so since I hadn't seen it done on DE yet, one of the things I'm trying to do with this series is take builds that are actually used by high-level players and then demonstrate it, but in a mid-ELO setting. And this game, every game you're going to see in the build orders in-game series is a game that me or somebody else has played on the ranked ladder, and that way you see not only the build, but you also see the game as it plays out. So now I'll just address for a moment that recently Hera had put out a video saying that he is going to be mainly focusing on League of Legends and playing Age of Empires 2, mostly in tournaments. And I just want to take this opportunity at the beginning of this video just to say shout out to Hera. I wish Hera the best of luck, and I think he'll always be welcomed by the Age of Empires 2 community, and was a really important force and still is a really important person to have around. And so again, people might have different feelings about things, but my personal feeling is, hey, have fun taking on new challenges, and we got your back. So anyways, with all that being said, right, I want to get back into the video, and what I want to do now before I start this is tell you what you are going to see and what you're not going to see. What you're going to see in this video is a build order, and I'm going to go ahead, put it up on the screen right now so you can see it. If you want to pause the video, write it down, you're more than welcome. But you're going to see this build order carried out, and I'm going to tell you what it's gaining us, why we're doing it, etc. Now, like I mentioned, I'm going to keep going on with the game because I don't want to just stop with the build, because I want to show you how the build works. And I do think sometimes in build orders we get a little sometimes overwrapped around them. We tend to obsess about them a little bit, where a lot of the game is actually reacting to what your opponent's doing. And what I want to show you in a build order video, especially when you have a particular civilization, like this build order really is specific in some way to the Mayans, though I do think that some of the principles of it have been integrated into the game, especially recently. But I want you to think about what kind of options you have, and I want to show you what some of those options are. I'll say I don't necessarily win all of these games that I put in the build orders in-game series, but at least the thing you will see is the build order executed perfectly. This game here occurs at about the 1300 level, so that is the context here. And I will say, very lastly, right, you're not going to see a perfect game played by me, played by my opponent, because this is a mid-ELO level of gameplay. So it's going to get a little bit messy. It's going to get a little bit nasty. And some of you are probably a higher ELO than this. A lot of you are probably a lower ELO than this. The thing we all have in common is we love this game and we all want to learn. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to jump into this video. We've got capture age on the screen, and let's go ahead and do it. All right, so I'll talk about the map in a second. I just want to take a look at my volume. Maybe turn this volume just a little down. Okay, I think we're good on the volume. I'm just gonna maybe turn it down just a little bit and see what we've got here. Okay, so I'm gonna cast this game and let's jump into it. So we have myself in the north. I am playing as the Mayans, as you would expect from this the title of this video. My opponent is down in the south playing as the Berbers, right? So a really interesting matchup here. Taking a look at the maps, zoning out a little bit. I think this map is all right for me. It is reasonably wallable, though it's very open in the front. This main gold in the front is kind of tricky, though we do have a nice back gold here that we can go to. And that looks like a neutral gold. Okay, and then our other 4-tile gold is way out in front. Gosh, it's basically in the middle of the map, so it's kind of a middling map, honestly, I gotta say. And my opponent, I think he has a similar map. I actually think his map is a little bit worse than mine. He's open here. He's pretty open here. He does have the back berries, which is nice. Main gold is forward, though, so that is something to think about. But he does have two nice back wood lines. Honestly, I think I like my map better in this game. I think I'm a little more favored here. So, anyways, getting back to the build for a minute, right? We have our 6 on sheep, and we're going to go 4 on wood. Again, right now the build is a pretty classic, pretty standard setup here. When you're playing mines, remember when you're playing mines, you always want to start with loom because you're getting that extra villager. Here I am luring a deer to the town center. You actually don't need to lure deer to do this build, but I had my last 2 sheep right here. I'd already found the other sheep, and what is that? The ostriches, right? The ostrich was right there. So, hey, you know, if it's there, go ahead and take it, not sacrificing any scouting to do so. Okay. So, again, pretty standard here, right? We're getting this elephant in. We're going to get this house up, and we're going to have this house building villager, go to the berries, and we're going to get 4 on berries. Let's check out what my opponent's doing here, right? So you see 3 on wood. So this is going to tell you that a scout build is coming. Now, I don't know this, but when you're up against Berbers, you might assume that that's the case. Sometimes cavalry civilizations that have a really strong eco bonus will go for a men-at-arms kind of build. That's pretty common. For instance, I think Mongols nowadays, you'll see that a lot. But Berbers aren't really getting much of an economic bonus, so you kind of have to go up on 22 population. And you're not getting as much out of it. So that's pretty standard build. Okay, so now we have 4 on wood. We have 4 on berries. We're going to go out. We're going to get this elephant. We put 1 more on food down at the town center, and now we're going to go send this villager out to build a house and a barracks here, right? Now here's where the build starts to get a little bit more interesting. What we're going to do with this next villager, right, is going to go become a lumberjack, right? So we are going to get to 5 on wood as we're getting things done here. Come on. Get to that 5 on wood. Just taking a moment to kill this scout here. Okay, perfect, right. So, took a little bit of time, didn't quite get out as soon as I wanted to. We're getting a 5 on wood, and then what's going to happen next is everybody is going to go to the town center, and except for the last one who's going to go to the gold mine here. And not only that, but we're going to take this villager here and going to go ahead and set up that gold mine. So, we're doing pretty good here. If you take a look at the idle time, a little bit of idle time here just from you know, just here and there, but 6 seconds isn't much, and we're doing pretty good so far, I think. So, okay, boom. You see there, now we've clicked up. And so let's talk about what we're about to go in, what we're about to do here. So this build is, as you can see, right, we're going to hit at about 10:10, 10:11, so we only have about 6 seconds of idle TC time. And what this build is going to enable us to do, right, this build is going to enable us to not only have a lot of wood because we got that villager, that 5th villager on the lumber camp a little bit early, but we're actually going to make 4 men-at-arms in this build. Normally, right, in a build where you're hitting that 10:05, right, 10:10 sort of time, you're going to be getting only 3 men-at-arms out, but we're actually going to have 4 here. Part of this is the Mayan eco, starting with the extra villager, and part of this is really just the build. So let's go ahead and see as we get there, and as you can see, right, we're going to be able to get our 10 on wood pretty effectively here, and we're doing a pretty nice job. Pretty nice job here. Gonna see some militia being made here in a second. All right, perfect, right? We're going ahead. We're already getting those queued up. Let's see, my opponent is up as well and should have a pretty good time. Looks like he's going with a 22 pop scout play. Now here's something you'll notice. What I should have done here is I should have got a villager out already to get a house up, but I wasn't thinking a bit as clearly. Again, mid-ELO game, right? You don't need to build the house with the gold villagers. You can build it with another villager. But as you can see, right, there's a lot going on here. We're trying to get across the map. Here we're taking not the best fight in the world, but again, I actually kind of don't mind because I would rather take a fight against a scout before it gets up to the next stage, do a little bit HP damage, and again, we're gonna have 4 men-at-arms here. You can see we're up, and we've got the men-at-arms upgrade, we've got the town center running, we've got villagers queued up. Now, I think a build that has a bit more effectiveness efficiency from an idle TC standard, maybe, and a little less idle economy, may be able to afford double bid axe in early feudal as we zoom in here, but I don't quite have it. I could get it right here, but I actually want to prioritize keeping the town center running. Again, I will say if you're doing this build in a mid-ELO, right, and you have sort of our level of efficiency here, you might find that this is that you don't have what you might normally have if you were a bit more efficient. Again, it's one of these things. We could go ahead and get double bid axe right now, so we should have the resources to do it. But as you can see, right, trying to prioritize things and have that economy going, and yeah. So we're just gonna go ahead, try and find damage here. And so far we are looking around, trying to find something. We get some good information here, right? We see the archery range, and we're gonna go ahead, idle these berries a good bit. Pretty decent there. In fact, let me just actually go to my perspective. Yeah, so you can see what I see here. Perfect. So as you can see, right, this is what I've got visually, and we still have all of our military here. So this is a force. This right here is a force that's very, very difficult for our opponent to fight. Now here's some Miss Micro right here, taking some damage on that spearman, and he's trying to get out to gold. It seems like what he's probably wanting to do is get to something like archers, or maybe get fletching or something like that for his skirmishers, but we're going to try and make this as difficult as possible for him. Right, so he's doing a pretty nice job here, causing some havoc, and you can see right now we have fletching in, but we are a bit vulnerable up top. We actually had some spearmen that were created for this specific purpose to not let something like this happen, because again, right, bit of a mid-ELO gameplay thing. We could be getting walled up. We do have the wood, but again, it's one of those things that best laid plans going on here. As you can see, we have a little bit of idle TC time. Our idle economy time is actually pretty good. You can see we have a nice advantage in our idle eco time with our opponent, even right when we have some scouts here. And we have lost a couple villagers, which is pretty unfortunate, right? So now we're 2 villagers behind, but we are really doing the best we can here, and we are keeping pressure on our opponent. Interesting that we did not get a villager kill. Berber villagers, right? This is something to think about in the matchup here, where Berber villagers are really fast, right? They have a 15% more walking speed, and that means that they can get away when they want to. So you are kind of seeing one of the Berber bonuses in action with that. And so what I'm thinking now is that I am feeling like, I feel like I'm not going to be able to close out my opponent here. Looking back in retrospect, right, really, he's got a lot of troops there. I should have taken these archers and maybe try and swung around, but I think this is where he wants to queue up his archers here. He's got, where's his skirmishers at? Yeah, he's got a couple skirms there. And one of the things about this build with Mayans is that it's a one range build. And so what you're really trying to do is get a good uptime so you can get to Castle Age quickly. And that's what we're going for. You can see we have some pretty decent resources here. And I think that even though this is a pretty vulnerable area, he's patrolling here with scouts. He's got the skirmishers. We've knocked him off of this forward gold, and which is a really big move for us here. Where is he taking gold? Okay, so he's taking gold out here. So I think in retrospect, if we could have gone there, we didn't really scout him out quite as much as we should have, as we are getting wheelbarrow. And even though we haven't killed any villagers, right, we're only 1 villager behind. Well, I mean, we're actually a little bit ahead, just in that we're getting wheelbarrows, so that's why our town center's a little idle, right? We don't have the villagers queued up. And you can see, right, we have pretty decent resources here, which again, one of the selling points of this build is that you can get a pretty nice Castle Age time. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. As you can see, we're going to click up, accidentally hitting Town Watch, and now we're clicked up. So we're going to get a pretty decent time. Again, not a pro level time or anything, but we should come in somewhere around 21, 22 minutes, which is not bad. And now we are playing for the next stage. Now, here with the Mayans, let's pause the game for a moment. Now, we're the Mayans, so one of the things you always want to remember about Mayans is that you're not going to have access to knights. So you need to make a decision with the Mayans. Do you stay on your cheaper crossbows, or do you switch into eagles? Now, what I'm seeing in this game so far, right, as I'm engaging with this force, mainly to try and see what he has, click on his units, click on his upgrades, I see that he has gotten some armor, and he's really invested into these. So I'm thinking, okay, it sounds like or looks like rather, he is going to go with skirmishers. So this is evidence enough for me to go ahead and make a switch into eagles, and so that's what we're going to do. So you're going to see us put up a couple of barracks here. We're going to go 3 barracks eagle production. Okay, boom, there's a barracks. And again, thinking about the power of this build, right? We're going to have a pretty nice uptime, and we have the wood to put down the 3 barracks. We have the resources to get armor for our eagles, so it's actually pretty nice. Now, something I will draw your attention to right here. One of the things, right? You want to get double bed axe a lot earlier than this. You can see throughout this game, we've had the resources pretty much the whole time. You can tell by me getting horse collar right now that I just forgot about it. You don't need to forget about it, you know, because the resources were there for us to do it anyways, but it was just a mistake on my part. So I will rectify that once I get to the next stage here, because I'm going to try to get the second lumber camp upgrade, and I'm going to have to get double vid-X first. So, but we're going to have a nice time here, right? Around 22 minutes. You can do this if you're playing this really. I mean, if you look at the idle TC time, 1 minute and 29 seconds so far. Honestly, you can do this in like, you know, that's probably like 20 minutes or so. So, something to think about here. All right, so we are planning on getting these eagles out. All right, getting villagers queued up. I will say one of my bad habits that I've noticed playing, and you might notice this in your game too, is getting all those Castle Age upgrades. Sometimes I forget to have a villager queued up in Castle Age, or if I do, I need to go back and make another one again. And so keeping the town center running is one of the most important things, and at a mid-ELO level, we often make those kind of mistakes. So one of the things I am trying to get into my gameplay a bit better integrated is keeping that town center running in early to mid Castle Age, because that's a place where I tend to struggle. As you can see, having some idle TC time right now, getting a bit too focused on military, taking the fights, but we're doing our best here, trying to jump in there. And well, I mean, we should have a decent military lead. Our opponent's still a bit of a ways up to getting to Castle Age, but I will say one of the scary things about Berbers is the cheap knights is really, really good, and it's a situation where when you're Mayans, it's very, very tough to deal with. You know, you'd like to have knights or camels or something of your own, but Berbers are going to just have them cheaper, so Berbers can really be a difficult matchup, I think, as these eagles are going to try to get a villager kill, and we do have quite a lot of them, and we're causing some havoc in the base, killing a few villagers. You can see that our opponent is getting +2 armor, and well, he's going to try to get hit the mic a little bit, and he's going to be getting these knights out. He's on 3 stables. He wants to go 4 stable knights, and you might think about this. It's a really smart move from him, I think, actually, because first of all, he's got the cheaper knights, which is important. But the second thing to think about this is that if he has 3 stables or even 4 stables, he can just get them out so much quicker. The idea is not to keep them running completely. The idea actually is to just get knights in the field as fast as possible, because if he gets more knights, he's going to be able to deal with the eagles. Now, I've anticipated this, as you can see. I've researched pikemen, and I'm sending pikemen, but they're having to get to this area of the battlefield from quite a distance away, so it's not the best scenario that we're dealing with here. As you can see, some mid-ELO gameplay, right? Getting the villagers not queued up, but hey, we are doing a bit better now, and we are also on 2 town centers. Our opponent is also on 2 town centers, so I mean, one of the things here to think about is the strength of this Berber bonus is really powerful, because he's able to just keep queuing up knights, killing 2 TCs, and all of a sudden this is not looking like a great matchup for us. We are, right, keeping our town center production a bit better than him right now, as we're doing a little bit of the micro dance, because I'd like to thin out some of these ranged units, just so. What I'm thinking is that I really might need to make a switch into a lot more pikemen, given how many knights we're seeing on the field. And so I want to thin out some of these ranged units to the best extent possible, and that's really what we've done. Clicking on them and seeing that they don't have upgrades is probably a better way to do that, instead of taking some of these fights and risking some troops. But man, I mean, look at how many knights he's got. He's got 15 knights, and if we could just click on one of these guys for a second, right, he does have +2 armor. So this is actually, right, we need to get more of these pikemen in here to try and help fight this, but this is a really good force, and he's also getting husbandry in. So I mean, he's falling a little bit behind, right, to do this. He's falling behind in the villager game, but honestly, if it's a strategy, idle your TC to get the knights out. Our opponent just won a really important fight, and now all of a sudden he has the military advantage. He's going to take out this barracks, and what are we going to do now? Okay, so we just lost a battle. Now we're going to go back home, right? We're going to keep our Vil production going, and let's make pikemen. He's going knights, so if we just go pikemen, this will be good for us. Hoping to maybe try to scout them out, see where they are. But this is actually a mistake because he has so many knights. I never expected him to have this many knights, even as Berbers, which is why we're just going to keep pumping these bad boys out, right? Getting some damage, but honestly, he's got a little bit of a hill there, and this is not the best situation to be in. And you can see, right, he wants to play the aggressor. He's got a forward siege workshop on his mind. Gonna get really tricky. We're gonna have to get off of this gold, which isn't the biggest deal right now, actually, because we're just making pikemen. And the good thing here is that we do have 4 barracks up, so we can get pikemen out at a pretty good clip. And now, right, we've thinned out a lot of those knights, which is really good for us. I mean, we're only trading pikemen, and those knights are, you know, he's lost quite a few of them, right? You can see he had almost 20 before, and now he's down to 9, and some of those he's made in between. So this is actually a really, really nice repost to his assault there. And right now we're grouped up here, but the truth is that we can't do very much damage from this point, right? We don't have a lot of damage that we can do. And so the decision point right here for me is to think, well, now that we've thinned out those numbers, let's go ahead, let's get another town center up and really focus on getting our economy where it should be, right? Our town centers are rocking. We're keeping those going. Looks like our idle TC time is stabilized a little bit, right? We accumulated some during some fighting, but we're still keeping under 10 minutes so far. And our idle economy is not doing so bad. We actually have a really healthy villager lead. We do have the military lead, but you always got to remember in this case, we can't really do damage with it, right? So, okay, so here's an interesting moment right here. Our opponent's researching long swordsmen. So he sees we have a lot of pikemen, and he's going to make long swordsmen, and he's going to go for a counter raid here, right? I really like this move from him, right? We just got this TC up. Man, we just made those villagers. Well, looks like we lost a couple, but we did keep that area safe, right? Trying to make that house, I don't know why. You know, it's not really helping us here. He's going to go ahead and get some villager kills, and our pikemen are forward and really out of position here. You know, didn't really expect the counter raid from that perspective, but hey, he got it in. It would have been nice to have those sides walled up. He is killing a few villagers, but we do have a Vil lead, and we do have town centers that we can retreat to. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but we are definitely taking some losses here. And right, he is making up for a little bit of this, but again, right, we have forces that are streaming in. And I will say, if you take a look at the damage he's done, he's killed about 6 villagers or so. Not as many villagers gone down to this, but look at the idle eco. Right, we've had to garrison so many villagers, and now, boom, right? I mean, now the idle TC time's going up. This is really one of these things that shows you when you're at a mid-ELO level, when the game starts to get really sloppy and really messy, are at these moments right here when you start getting raided, right? That's when things get really funky, and it got funky for us there. So, and now down here, right now the longswordsmen come in. So we have this pike siege push we want to go into. The longswords move, completely unanticipated from me. I don't even know how many barracks does he have. He's on, okay, looks like he has 3 barracks, so he's really committing to this. And hey, like, these pikemen are gonna get cleaned up. He's also got some knights here, but this is not a great fight. We're gonna recalibrate to take out some of those knights, but he's going crazy on the long swords now. So you got to think about this, right? As the Civ, longswords are going to counter pikemen, and the longswords are going to counter eagles. So now eagles are off the table because he has so many longswords. And we managed to get that last night. So what do we got to do? All right. Again, this game has been like, this is a really nice 1v1 because it's this shifting counterplay as this siege workshop is under attack. This shifting counterplay of units, right? Where I go with some force, right? We have men-at-arms and archers. He has some scouts and some skirmishers that wind up coming into the mix. We go eagles. He has knights. We go pikemen. He goes longswords. And now what are we doing? We're getting some ranges up. We want to get some ranged units out on the field. But what I really want to do more than anything right now is take this hill. One of the things about him attacking these houses, right, is that I know where his army is, right? And so when he's there, when he disengages from that or when he goes back to it, right, that tells me where he's at. So I'm thinking, okay, let's commit the villagers forward, right? Now when the attack bells aren't going off, now I know that he's on the way, which is one of the reasons why I sent these pikemen forward. And you can see he wants to get a forward town center up, because one of the things that kind of cued me into this is that when he tried to take this forward siege workshop earlier in the game, that was something that recognized for me that he knew how important this territory was, right? Now we control it. So we control this territory. Now, I mean, this is a really, not a lot of lives were lost in this scenario, but it's actually a huge moment in the game because, right, now this is forcing him to make a much more defensive castle. It's kind of out in no man's land. It doesn't really protect that much. He could put it a little bit more on a hill, but I think it's still on a hill a little bit. And again, let's take a look at the resources now. Take a look at the economy. Our economy's idle a little bit, but yeah, our economy is idling just a little bit. Well, we're getting there. We're getting there. And one of the things that I want to do here, right, is I want to get up to Imp. I have a castle here, right? If you take a look at my perspective, right, I know I saw the foundation, so I know he has a castle. So from my perspective, I'm thinking I can win this game if I can trip him down. And I know that because he's been making longswordsmen, he can't have a lot of food, right? And so us going into archers, and now we're going to get plumes out for some extra mobility, try and track this army. And plumes are great too, because if he goes back into knights, we can also run away from the knights. Plumes are a fantastic unit. And honestly, I'm really keeping them here more just to scout his army and see where his army is. And that way I know where he's at on the field, as he's going to go for another counter raid, right? With only two knights, the only two knights left in his army, but they're not going to find very much damage. We're pretty well defended up here. And right, and now you can see something very interesting here. We do see a camel archer. Let's see if we see more of those, as he's going to send this army, right? It looks like he's going to send this army forward, right? He's going on a little bit of a crusade here, right? And, right, let's see what we see when we see it. Okay. Right, so we know that this army is here now. This army is coming, right? We go ahead, we garrison the TC, so not a bad reaction from us. Right, we've been having to garrison our town centers a lot this game. It's increasing our idle eco time by quite a bit, but that's okay. Our idle TC time is, I mean, nothing's ever exactly what I want it, but, you know, it could be worse. And so now we're about to be up to Imp, and we have resources, and more importantly, our opponent going to longswordsman is not, and he looks like he wants to make camel archers. So from this position, what do we want to do? Well, what I'd like to do first, get some of these ranged upgrades, get thumb ring, so that way, again, if he's got this big massive long swords, that way we can deal with them. And the idea here, from this vantage point, keep making plumes, and eventually get to something like halberdiers. If we have plumes, we can deal with any infantry that he has, and if we have halberdiers, we can deal with any cavalry he has. So that's the thought process here. Now, he is going for quite a few camel archers here, And he looks like he's trying to, and this is not bad from him. It is allowing him to save up some food to get to the next stage. Now, here's something that we're going to be doing here as this battle's going on here, right? I want to actually talk about trebuchets. I could start trebbing this castle down right now. I have a treb out. I'm not doing it. Why? I want to get the trebuchet numbers up a bit more so that way I don't alert him to what's going on. I have this side locked down here, right? He has these long swords in the back of the base, but again, we're tracking this pretty well with the plumes. We have bracer, right? We're going to be able to get this down. We have a town center here. We're in a pretty decent spot. So I'm actually not worried at all about that army. And now we want to move into position as we're about to get the third trebuchet out, right? And he's getting Casbah, right? That would increase the production speed of his castles. And that's one of the things about Berbers, actually, that's quite dangerous, is if he can get those Casbah, he can get trebuchets out quick, we could be in a really difficult situation, right? What I want to do is start trebbing this castle down, because I can tell from the fact that we're in Imperial Age, he's in Castle Age, we have a window here where we can go do damage. And now I see the camel archers, and I decide, okay, now's the time. Let's add some skirms into this army. But I also do want to keep making plumes, because plumes trade fairly well against camel archers anyways. And so if we have plumes and skirms, this should be a good enough army to deal with a massive cav archers. So, and we also have this hill now. We do have the stone for another castle, and we're going to get this castle treb down. He's still about a minute from imp. We have halberdiers in, so we could make it really difficult for him. And with that, I think our opponent sees that the composition is not what he wants it to be, and he goes ahead, gives the GG. This was a really spirited game. I feel like I didn't stop talking the whole time, and this video was like one long run-on sentence, but there was really something happening at each stage. There was a lot of moments in this game that I thought it was going to be a loss on my part. He probably felt the same way, and we both each had these comeback moments, and so there was a lot of back and forth. The real turning point in this game was right here, right, where we have the castle. If thinking about how this game would have replayed, and then I'll get back to the build order, I think if he'd have gone with some like knight skirmisher combination, that might have been a more effective choice for him. Though I really did like the long swords. If he'd have gone knight skirmisher, I probably would have tried to stay on still something like eagle and pikeman, and just try to have such a mass that maybe I could fight it and win with numbers. But that might have been difficult. But that being said, at this stage of the game, right, letting me get to plumed archers and halberdiers, this is a really good comp for me. And just given how far behind he fell in the villager count, then that's where I think that he was in an unwinnable position by this time. So it was a smart GG, but a really good game played from him. Big shout outs to him. Now, thinking about like this game in retrospect, like the build order was really strong. It allowed us to take some advantage, put some pressure on our opponent. We did get a little bit of a raid on us, but we had a really nice castle time. And just in terms of our times, right, I think that from the build order that really snowballed, and it felt like we were always in a decent position. We had enough resources to go and get a second TC down fairly early while still maintaining production. So I gotta say, you know, I think this is a really nice build order. It doesn't put you behind. It allows you to get a nice advantage. I probably could have done some things better for sure in this video, especially mid Castle Age onward. But hey, when it's a spirited contest, that's what happens. So you can see with the Mayans that you do have some options. You can tech into some different things, but because you lack stables, you are a little bit limited. And so you want to think about I think you need to think about what your late army composition is going to be a little bit ahead of time, mainly because you actually have so little you switch into. On the one hand, I think it can be a virtue because it's kind of like a restaurant that only serves a few things in the menu. Most of those meals are pretty good. But if you need a particular kind of meal. Sometimes it's better to have that buffet, and you can choose a lot of different things and mix and match a little bit. So, you know, all the American civs are limited to some extent, but they also have their advantages too. And for us, we got to the right composition here at the end with foot archers, in this case being a mix of plumes and crossbows, mainly going for plumes, and then halberdiers, which is a really hard combination to stop. And we had a really nice advantage in our trebuchets, and that was our siege unit. So we got to our unit comp at the end, and that's a nice comp you can play with Mayans. And you can see, right, that this build order can unfold in a lot of different ways. We saw a lot of different units get created in this game. So with that, I want to end the video. This has been Hera's best men-at-arms build with Mayans, and now you have it, and you've seen that it works in DE, albeit in the hands of a much more novice player. But hey, if I can do it, you can do it. So that being said, I'm going to jump off here, and I'll see all you guys out there on the ladder.